I'm Jackson. I have zero experience with carpentry.
I studied at a school for historic preservation in Boston and learned about how things were built, 250 years ago.
There's a long way to go. I'm nowhere near the top. Not that I thought I was, but there's so much more to do out there.
All right, yeah. Well, welcome back. Passion for Craft podcast episode number. We are talking about doors today, and the question of the day is, what should a door cost? And I believe we've got Brent is airing his grievances, so bring out your metal poles with some comments that have been made on
a
his
Seinfeld reference.
Yeah, it's a Festivus.
Yeah, so basically I shot a video where I tore apart a door. Basically, I went to the big box store and I bought the cheapest door possible. It was about $90.
Do you want to throw a big box store under the bus?
No. And it was not hung in a jamb, which would have made it $160. Okay, so the jamb cost the same price to the door. Clue to how cheap the door is. I was just like, what does an $80 door cost, and what do you get for it? And so I took it apart, and it was basically a masonite, hard cardboard shell with an imprint of wood in it. And on the inside was nothing except some styrofoam things and a very thin wood core around the outside.
You mean there was air in there?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So now it looked like a 6-panel door, but it was a pressed sheet. Okay. It made it look like a raised panel door. And my rant was like, look, builder grade is the cheapest grade. It drives me crazy. That's wrong. It'd be like the doctor grade was the cheapest stuff,
it's like the worst medicine.
The engineer's grade, is the worst thing. And
least amount of metal, yeah.
And so you're one that bothers me as a builder and as a craftsman. Like the builder grade should be the best grade, the professional grade, right? But it's not. It's the worst grade, and so bugs me. Number one. Two, I got all these comments on my YouTube page. I'm going to read some of them so we can talk about. Why are you laughing?
It's just really funny. One, that you've printed out your comments.
Does that show my age?
6 pages of comments.
The son is enjoying laughing at the dad.
I'm just really excited to hear what these people have to say. For like, they don't get it. Anyway, okay, let's hear it.
This is going to be interesting.
Boy, you really found that funny. Okay, so the first comment was that the average duration of home ownership in the U.S. He said, what's the average duration? Somewhere between 5 and 15 years. Builder grade materials have come to reflect this trend, and yes, it's very unfortunate, but the average homeowner just doesn't care anymore about whether their home is going to last several generations. They will be out in a few years. The cheap, crappy doors will still be good enough shape to sell the house. The next owner can replace them, repeat the cycle.
I've seen that. I've seen that mentality a lot.
Yeah.
People
and it becomes one of the biggest pushbacks to building well. The average home ownership is 5 to 15 years. So what does it matter?
It's almost like the average homeowner thinks like a slumlord. It's like, it's going to be there. It's going to operate. It's going to do its job. I'm still going to make my money back. And the next guy's
going to have to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it seems like. And I've seen that mentality a lot, even in my line of work where I'm like, I'll come in and, we've replaced doors before with, doors that are just solid core melamine and stuff like that, or particle board rather. And they'll mention stuff like that where it's like, well, I don't want to do this part of the house because those are still, operable. But the ones over here that are falling apart, let's just do those for now.
And maybe this is the wrong way of looking at it, but it does beg the question of like, what are you paying for in a house, right? If this is one of the most expensive purchases that we buy in our lives, and ideally it's meant to last and last long, what are you paying for nowadays in a house that's built with like these air for doors? We've got windows that fall apart after 11 years. We've got cabinets that fall off the walls. It's something that's happened to me. So like, what do you do for, what are you paying for, I guess, is it? Wow.
Well, let me just...
My mind's being blown, I guess.
One other point of reference is, for people who don't know, that's the cheapest door, $80. Okay. You can buy a slab door for $150, $200.
And the slab is just a straight up slab of wood that has been cut into a door
it's
shape.
with the particle board center, right? Something that's solid core.
It's a door without the jamb.
Yeah,
the slab.
And so, and then you get into big box stores also have a raised panel pine door, okay, a solid wood door, and then you get into,
and that's the first level of true solid wood. Is that $200-$300 level door?
And then you get into True Style doors, which are all MDF, and they're a company that makes doors in any different style configuration, and that's $600 to $800. And then you get into a custom door, which is $1,200 and up. Okay, so there's the world, right? $80 is the cheapest, and then
$1,200 is the most.
No, well, $2,500 or more. I mean, you can spend a lot of money in custom interior doors. The way I respond to that person is not to sit there and go, you've got to have great doors in your house, because the problem is that we've got a system of building in America where we're at 65% home ownership of America. No other country has that level of home ownership, and because you have that, when the industry introduced production building in the 40s and 50s with William Levitt and all the different production builders, home ownership went from 40% to 60%. Okay. So, that, increase in market share meant that houses became much cheaper. Okay?
So what would home ownership be in another, like what's a comparable? We're at 60. What's a comparable? Is 40 comparable to another country? Or are we
I'd
already
have to
above?
look it up, but I suspect in England it's
I'll look it up real
less
quick.
than 50%.
That's great, yeah.
So, there's countries like in China where, they own apartments that no one owns a single family home on their own lot with a backyard. I mean,
In major cities in China.
The reason you see all those high rises is because that's where everybody's living.
Right.
And so, it's a uniquely American phenomenon, right? So we have so much land, and it's just the way the cities and sprawl, cars and everything else allow that. So I'm not sitting there saying that everybody's got to put a great door in their house, but it's also troubling that doors have become so cheap and such a waste that they are, styrofoam and air, and so it's cheaper until a house. And I had one guy's comment. He goes, I actually like that the doors are cheap because it means I can go in and replace them and change the style up whenever I like, and it doesn't cost very much.
Who does that?
And I was just like, you're treating it like a paint color, like you're just trading it out like that. Is that what we're going to?
So for an apprentice who's like, hey, that's a good thing, right? I don't think it is. I think it's kind of dumb if your house has a consistent theme and then you're trying to like swap it out for a different thing. I don't get it personally, but like, let's just play devil's advocate here. To teach someone why that's a bad idea, what would you share with them? That's like, don't change your door outs because fill in the money.
I think if the door is not something you change out, it's a timeless piece. It's a part of the house.
Yeah.
It's a member of the house. It's like you said, it's not like a paint
It's
color.
like changing a wall out, basically.
I guess I freak out because I look at it historically. One of the things I did in the video says, look, here's a door from 1900, 1920, okay, 100 years ago. It was, solid wood, there wasn't even plywood. It was solid wood, true joinery, style and rail construction, moving panel. And I'm like, this was something that can last hundreds of years in a house, right? Versus something that won't. And so when we look at things historically, this framework that looking in the past, they would never have done that. And now we're doing this, we really are heading towards a world where everything's disposable, where our houses are disposable. And you think about the carbon footprint of all the work that goes into a house, and the fact that and maybe this is the question, if we only live there in 5-15 years, our home's going to a direction where it seems crazy for me to even say that, but you treat it like a car. You have it, and it runs for a while, and then you throw it away, right? It ends up in the junkyard, and it gets a scrap heap, and then, is that where we're going? Because that's not the way we used to be. If we're talking about what should a door cost, right?
Yeah.
There is a reality out there that is fraught with problems in my mind. It's just that in order to build a house so that most people can live in it, they end up becoming cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to the point that it becomes disposable. That door is not something that you can make in your shop, right? And so
You're not gluing the foam pieces to the, yeah.
hot gluing the
Yeah.
foam.
Well, I save a bunch of big gulp cups and I just put them in my doors.
That's how you divide them.
Yeah, or the factory to press melamine with the wood grain into it, so that you get the
your
skin
fine
on the
glue
outside.
polymer. Yeah.
Oh, I never liked that.
Yeah.
So like the 6-panel doors
Yeah.
with the wood grain pressed
Yeah.
into it,
Yeah.
I always thought, and I've had those doors in my houses that I've lived in, and it always just infuriated
You know what
me.
drives me crazy? Look at all the wood in here. Okay,
Yeah.
there's oak, there's cherry, there's every kind of wood in here. Nothing has the wood grain like that,
Yeah.
right?
It's like raised up too. You could feel it, like it's so thick. It's like trying too hard to look like wood.
It's like they sandblasted the door. And
Yeah.
so it's really.
What are they copying? Is it pine? Is that they're like?
There's nothing that
There's
looks
not
like
a real wood. It's
It's
not real
nothing they're
wood.
copying.
It's so
It's
weird.
It's a weather. It's almost like a weathered wood look. It's
Yeah.
just. It's not real.
The grain is
It's
so
not real.
raised up.
Now, if we're talking about what should a door cost, okay, we also should talk about what should a door look like,
Yeah.
right? A door should look like it's made from something real.
Mm-hmm.
All right, another comment. The sad truth is, you got me self-conscious about printing these out.
It's just funny. It's funny. I love
The
it.
sad truth of our time, nobody has time for money for crap or
Read it slow.
the sad truth of our time, nobody has time or money for craftsmanship.
Okay.
That is a direct challenge at all three of us,
Yeah.
right? No
Well-
one has time for craftsmanship. How do you respond to that?
I mean, that I hear that all the time, and I feel like it is the money, which is like probably the leading factor that I hear about is like, well, it's just cheaper to do it this way. So of course I'm going to save money, right? And then no time is everyone's excuse for everything. But I mean, I've asked the same question before, and you guys have said, what do you want out of the world? Like, do you want Taco Bell everywhere, or do you want great quality things that are beautiful to look at?
So the time and money thing, I think, is like, I give you a good example. Dave Rogers, a Windsor guy, his dad worked at a lumber yard, and they made these doors that cost $10,000. They're entry doors to homes. This is up in the Northeast. I forget exactly where, but he worked in this lumber yard, and he was the only one selling those doors in that lumber yard.
Yeah.
And the other salesmen came up to him and were like, "Wait, how are you selling these doors? Like what's going on? Like, no one's gonna buy these doors." And he's like, "They're buying them. Like, they're
Yeah.
buying them." He's like, "You wouldn't buy them because you're not building a $4 million house. They're buying them because they are." So it's just like, it's almost like a liberating moment when you realize, like, whoa, other people have more money than me,
Yeah.
And those people who have that money, who are willing to pay for the craft, they're not really investing time. Maybe they're just investing time waiting for you to build it versus going to big box and buying the styrofoam
Totally.
door. You can have 20 of those right now, whereas like 20 real doors that are built out of wood, style and rail, mortise and tenon.
Well, we
That's
also
going to
talked
take
about,
a long time.
We talked about the production house building too, and I don't know average time it takes you to complete a house, but we know that you do one house in the amount of time that a production builder can get 600 houses done, right? I mean, there is a difference. There is something that you're waiting on, which I mean goes to your point.
Yeah, you're going to wait for, I like using the example of the steak, because you're going to wait for a chef to prepare a steak. It's going to be so good versus just, like you said, drive through Taco Bell.
I like that. I like that analogy. And you think about like going to Neiman Marcus, okay? And I go into that store and I'm like, who would pay for this stuff? But obviously, a lot of people pay for this stuff. And so for me to go in there and go, how could you charge that much for a shirt? Well, because they're selling a lot of shirts that cost that much.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there's these realms we get into that we're comfortable the amount that we're paying in that realm.
Yes.
And here's what a shirt should cost. And then you go there and a shirt costs $500. You're like, who would pay $500 for a shirt? Well, a lot of people do. And so maybe they're just experiencing, and the reason I'm freaking out is like $80. A lot of people would pay more than that, and they just don't know.
Well, a lot of people don't understand the value of that shirt, and maybe it has like a better cotton, or maybe a thread counts,
No
or
doubt.
whatever stuff.
No doubt.
I don't get into fashion
Yeah.
or anything. I just get paint all over my clothes and rip
you
my
look
stuff.
great.
So, but yeah, it's the same thing with the door. People don't get it. They're just like, it swings, it operates. Why are you ranting? What are you talking about? It's a door.
Right,
but
right.
they don't get it. And I think our objective is to make people get it.
Oh,
You
totally.
know?
Completely. But that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, I didn't phrase it right. Everybody is not unwilling to spend time or money, but those are two of people's most valuable resources they are going to spend with the most discretion.
Yeah.
Right. So when you've got a comment like that, I'm like, yeah. And especially representing my apprentices out there, I get that comment, because if you are uneducated in like what's going on, you could look at the wood grain of a, made up wood grain and be like, oh, look at this fine wood grain. Especially if it's in a flooring and you're like, I have no idea that it's probably just plastic. So I think when you look at two of those things side by side, you look at hardwood floor and then you look at like a plastic floor. And so I lived in an apartment that had this nice like plastic flooring. It was obviously fake wood grain. It was blue.
It was a picture of wood.
It was a picture of wood. It was a blue picture of wood. So, I mean, it was very clearly fake, but it was a smooth, consistent surface, right? Whereas you go to a hardwood floor, like, I mean, the floor in here, beautiful old wooden floor. However, it is, uneven and cracked and other stuff. So for someone to not understand that, you would look at those two things and go, well, one's flat and then one's not. So obviously I want the flat one, not understanding the beauty that's provided from the other one. Does that make sense? So that's what I'm saying. Like, me as like the uneducated apprentice, I just want to vouch for this guy and go, he's right. These are the two resources. And without what you're saying, without our education in the process of like, we've got to explain why. Why does the door matter? So,
which do you have another comment about that?
Well, you just kind of nailed it right there. It's the education. It's like swing one of those doors in an opening and close it. Like you could probably slam it and it would just catch the air and not even close.
Right.
Or slam like an actual wooden door. It's gonna just feel so much more solid. You'll hear it click and the latch catch, and it's awesome sounding.
Yeah.
It just feels like a mechanically engineered, beautiful thing versus the door that he opened up in his video was the opposite of that, know?
Well, and it goes to this, Sean's comment, education. Okay. Education can go a long way and consumers will start caring. Consumers do value quality in other categories, which is what we were saying, and pay for it for automotive, cell phones, even appliances, right? I mean, people will pay more for the Sub-Zero Wolf package as opposed to the Monogram package because, they're willing to pay for that. There's value in there for them. And it comes down to education. The reason why we're doing this podcast, the reason why I talked about opportunity, like, but the opportunity. Now, I don't think there's an opportunity to put, that cherry door in a track house, right? I would agree. The problem is the thing that
did you say track house or crack house? Serious question.
Track.
What is a track?
Like a track house.
What is that?
It's a production house.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
So the problem I get frustrated about is when they put that cheap door in $1 million house. Okay. And then you're like, what are you doing?
You could have afforded this.
You could have, you can afford a $10,000 front door, right? Why are you putting in this cheap $80 door? And I think that comes back to that education piece. I can think that comes back to, and there's, the biggest problem I see in building right now is the people that are building $1 million, $2 million, $3 million houses and basically getting a track house on steroids.
Yeah.
Right. It's just, it's bigger, right? There's more expensive materials inside. In some cases, they're thrown around, haphazardly, and it's a mess. Yeah.
Can you speak to that in terms of square footage? Because I know just Nally and I were looking to buy homes in Denver, and we were looking at a 1,000 square foot house that was costing us $500,000. So like, what's $1 million house square footage wise to you?
Well, in our market, right, a $1 million house is probably going to be a 300 to 400,000 square foot house that's being built for $300 to $400 a square foot. So 300 times 400, 3,000 square feet times 4 is 1.2 million.
So 3,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Sorry, I was just trying to get consistent.
That'd be the entry level for a $1 million house. Maybe 2,500 built at 500 a square foot. I mean, it's that'd be a really small $1 million house. But we can do that.
And to y'all's point, Are you trying to sell them? Yeah, well, to y'all's point, you're saying that a more beautiful house out of those two houses, right? You've got let's say $10 million house with every single one of the doors is MDF door, except for the front door, which is like, makes it look great. But you're saying value wise, out of those two houses, the better house is the $1 million house that has done everything correctly and is maybe 2,500 square feet and has spent the money to properly.
No. What I'm saying is that the $1 million house or more that has these cheap doors in it, because that goes back to the builder who's just cheating the game, who's just playing tricks and is
really cheating the owner.
Cheating the market, and so if you go into these homes of dreams things, the parade of homes things that are happening around the country, a lot of those houses are built by builders who don't know what they're doing, and who think if they throw a lot of molding at it, if they think that they throw fancy exterior detail at it, they think that they throw a tower or 5 towers, and believe me, they're out there. And they do all these, it looks like Disneyland, that it will sell for more, And sometimes it does.
Because it looks like Disney.
Because it looks like...
it looks good, but it's not.
It's impressive,
yeah.
Okay? It's like maybe a quarter pounder, right? That you're like, dang, that's a huge burger, right? Or whatever the thing is.
Bigger is better.
Right, bigger is better. And so... I think that we talked about this before, but you pay for a television, with 8K or whatever thing, and that market is pretty. You're paying for specs, and the problem is that you can't play that game because if you spend $10,000 on a TV, you've got a good TV,
right?
Right. If you spend $1 million in a house, it doesn't mean you have a good house, because there are tricks and crap that's going on in the market that if you don't know, if you're not educated, you'll look at that door and go, there's this 6-panel door. That's what doors are, right? And you're like, no. You don't realize what doors are, okay?
Right.
That's not a door, is my deal.
Well, it's like selling an 8K advertised 8K TV that does like 360p.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
like, and no one's the wiser. They're just like, it's flashy, and a lot of people don't know what they're looking at.
Right.
Look how big the screen is, right?
Well, and there are a few companies that do that. Like, and I don't know if this is like bad, but TCL is a TV company that makes big TVs, but does not do them to the same quality of Sony or Samsung, right?
Oh, for sure,
and the bigger is better. You think that, you definitely fall into that trap, but you're right. Those TVs don't cost 8K. Right, those TVs cost $200-$300.
The price.
They reflect the
quality
price that's in it.
The price.
So here's the question. Really, more to you. How do you educate your client to pick a better door, or to do better, or to do more?
Well, I think giving them the options of like what's available, like saying like, look, here's a hollow core door, like the one you ripped apart. You don't want to do that because X, Y, and Z, the stuff we just talked about. Here's this door, this is kind of the middle of the road. Then here's me building a door for you, what this is going to cost. So here let's forget about this one. Like, I'll try to steer them away from that one. But here's the difference between these two.
But you're educating through giving information, right?
Yeah.
And you're educating by saying, here's the spectrum.
Yeah.
Just like I did with here's doors. Here's what they cost, right?
Yeah.
And so if we don't do that, because I can hear this builder in my head, well, you can't afford that, or that's a waste of money, right? Or, why would you spend your money there?
Oh, I don't like that either.
And so a lot of builders take on this because the architect has been the designer is doing the design stuff. Their job is to build the house for as cheap as possible. So they take this mantra and they go forward, and they end up shooting down all these different decisions because, well, you don't want to pay for that,
right?
Because I can get it cheaper somewhere else, or whatever the thing is, and they're not educating their client. They're not saying, okay, let's carefully go through each of these decisions that you'd have. Let's talk about windows. Let's talk about doors.
Yeah.
Let's talk about roofs. Let's talk about exterior cladding, right? And so you are educating, right? And and builders aren't educating, I think, is part of the problem.
So I'm the apprentice here. I was writing down all of the types of doors that you were saying. I don't know if I would be able to tell them from each other. So I know I can kind of use some weighted door. I can weigh the door and be like, okay, right. Can you help me as a novice to this understand what I'm looking at each level of door? Okay, so you're saying we've got a big box store door, the one that you tore apart in the video. What's a good identifier for that door? You give me like 3 things. So
I think the weight is a dead giveaway.
Lightweight's a dead giveaway?
The weight.
Okay.
It'd weigh, 16 pounds versus a style and rail door that's solid wood that would weigh 30 pounds.
Okay, so the weight on that would way lighter weight. Any other big identifiers that would help with that? It's hollow. Knock on it. It's hollow.
You can hollow, and you can push on the skin and see the skin, move.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you also, where you have style and rails come together, there's no line there. Like
Okay.
Usually always when 2 pieces of wood come together, there's that joint line. You can look at all these panels and stuff. On those, you're not going to have that.
So no joint line where 2 pieces of wood should come together. You need to see joint. Okay, that's a great identifier for that one.
I mean, it's
it's something you're looking for. It's identifier. We're a podcast. Our goal is to educate people. There are people like me out there who listen to this thing. So why not us share with them like kind of the things that they're looking for? So for the MDF door, right? That's the next level up. We kind of said that there's an $80 door with the one that you opened up. Then the MDF one is kind of that next level down. It's this $160 door. What are some identifiers there for that one?
Well, that one is also going to be pretty heavy because MDF is extremely heavy. Yeah.
So it will be a little heavier. So what are some of the giveaways for that one?
160. If you go to Home Depot or Lowe's right now, you can get a 6-panel wood pine door for about $160.
So what's wrong with it?
Well, they only come in one style. There's a 6-panel,
Got it. Okay. Right? So that is what you get.
You don't have a lot of variety and choice.
But
the other thing is that the variety and styles of doors is going to be the less as you go as it costs them, because they were wanting to make it over and over and over again.
Right. Totally.
And so just realize that $160 6-panel door that's pine you can get a good solid wood door, from a big box store, but you only get it in one style.
Is that better than the MDF door? That would be a similar price?
In a 6-panel,
yeah, I'm just against MDF. I always have to go wood over MDF.
Sweet. So the real wood pine door, 6-panel door, that's a good door. So like if I'm a beginner homeowner and I really don't have a lot of money to spend, that's the best option for me to go with.
That's a good option.
It's a good option.
I would say the better option would be to go to a architectural salvage yard and buy used wood doors.
Great. That's a great tip. Yeah.
There are also, that's a good option. There's also new doors that remember we talked about in a past episode about like where you're getting this wood and stuff. Yeah. There's lumber yards who have a lot more options as far as doors too.
So they will sell doors at some of these lumber yards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's door plants even here locally who manufacture style and rail wood doors. And they're
for good prices.
They're going to be more than that big box one. But one thing I'll say about that big box one is if you get a door from a big box store that's 6-panel and it's raised panel, it's wood, everything, and then you get one from these guys at Whole Millwork, you're going to notice a difference because the raised panels from theirs are going to be a lot cleaner. They're going to be crisp lines like we talked about with the moldings. And a lot of that pine is just really low grade pine. Yeah. And it's just cheap. Like I notice it, like it's like I've tried painting them before.
It's finger jointed underneath that skin.
Yeah, and they're like real furry and like they're not sanded. The finish is just horrible. You have to put a lot of work in it to make it look good.
That's super helpful information. Okay, so sweet. Yeah. So that's the next level up. And then if we're to level that up one further, what's the one after? I missed one when I was writing down. You had kind of a whole list.
MDF.
The MDF.
You're talking about the solid.
So I'm saying we're after
core slab door.
So we had the solid core slab door. Is that the one we were just talking about?
The hollow core door is the 80.
Okay.
The solid core slab door is the 160.
Okay. And that's the one we were just talking about. That's 6-paneled, or go to the salvage yard, or go to the lumber yard or the door plant.
And then the MDF is after that.
MDF would be after that, but y'all would still say, as for like having a good starter home that's being built right, don't go with the MDF, go with the step below it.
For me personally, I don't like MDF at all. So I mean, I see the point of like the advantage of why someone would do that, because someone like True Style can offer you all those designs and you're going to be smooth and paintable. But personally,
I'm conflicted by the beauty versus quality thing, and I understand that MDF. It's not a good thing to be putting into our homes, in my opinion. But I also get a lot more styles for the cost.
You have a more chance of diversifying your style. So it is a little bit of a tension with you. I thought this was actually going to be a clean and cut. No, don't go with that one.
No, we do, when we're trying to manage budgets for our clients, right? And we have that exact conversation you were describing. We're educating them about what the opportunities are. And we'll say, is MDF, it's cost about this much. Here's the problems. Here's the pros. Here's the cons. Here's what we can do.
Yeah.
The next step up is custom, right?
And that's kind of like $1,200 and up.
Yeah. And so, and I suspect there's some custom guys that could probably make a custom door for $800-900.
Okay.
But I think you're in that $1,000 range and up. And, you are getting real wood. You're getting, a lot more flexibility as far as styles and as far as, wood quality. MDF door is a paint grade door. You get into stain grade doors. You get into other kind of things that you're looking for. And so,
cool.
Even as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that I'm getting to, a more custom, high end product.
Yeah.
But I still, I still understand the whole spectrum. If I'm an entry level person, okay, first of all, I'm not buying a production house. Okay, I'm going to go buy
totally not.
I'm going to buy a used house.
Yes.
Okay, and then I'm going to go get architectural salvage because of the quality of those products that are available, that were produced then, that are still going to be around in 100 years.
Of course,
right? That's where I'm going. So
I mean, just to this point. So what I'm hearing, like entry level, go to the architectural salvage yard, go to these door plants, like go somewhere that is not the big box store, even though that is where the convenience lies. Don't go there.
Yeah,
that seems to never be the answer, which is good.
Yeah, I would just, for me personally, I wouldn't even consider that 6-panel door from the big box store.
You wouldn't consider it? Okay.
No, I wouldn't
take that
consider
off the
it
list
for
because
me
I can get a
personally,
comparable price at an architectural salvage yard or at one of these door plants.
And you can get different styles too.
Better styles.
Probably not as many styles as those MDF ones.
Yeah,
but better.
But some more.
The only time I have used those doors in the past is when I was working on a 1940s Colonial Revival, because Colonial Revival had the 6-panel door is a Colonial Revival door, is a colonial door.
Yeah.
And so it fits our, so I've used those pine doors. We paint them, just so you know.
Well, look, that's super helpful information. I do feel like that kind of answers the question for those beginners out there who are like,
cost?
What should a door cost? But then on top of that, what door should I be looking at if I'm going into it? And it seems that is not a massive expenditure. If you're buying a home, this is a 30-year investment that you're spending. You want it to be right. And I think we've all stayed in a house where there's thin walls, or, you can hear everything, that conversations happen on the other side of the door. Those don't come from these type of doors that we're talking about buying here, because they're solid.
And I think from my perspective, and that's why I keep saying me personally, is that I'm thinking like, what would I put in my house? Like, and I can build the stuff myself.
Yes.
So I'm like a little more like, I have a little bit more liberty there. I think your approach is more from the client side.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, here's how much this is going to cost. Here are your options.
That's helpful.
Because you're always working with someone's budget, and I am too, but
True.
It's my own.
Yeah.
So it's sweat equity. I'm putting my own time in to build these doors.
Well,
That's
that makes a ton of sense.
And on what a door should cost too, I built this white oak door for my laundry room.
Yeah.
It's a historic style. I don't know what you would call it, but I'll show you a picture of it. All right, you might have seen the video. I don't know. But
I saw the outside door you built. I didn't know you built a white oak door for your laundry room.
Yeah, I'm on my third build door now.
Oh, you are?
So it's the one with the interlocking half flat miter joints.
Oh, yeah.
So that one cost me $600 alone just in the wood.
Okay.
that's not even touching it. Like I just bought the wood, $600.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot more expensive, you know, to get those doors. That's why when he's saying $2,500 for a door, custom door, that doesn't sound crazy to me because I know what goes into it. But from someone who can see, like, I can get an $80 door at Home Depot. You want $2,500?
Totally.
It's like, well, hold on. Look what all goes into it. You know, look, and it would be cool.
And that was my hope with that exercise.
That's a good
right.
explanation.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm sitting here thinking is like, well, I mean, why? You know? And that makes sense. It makes sense that it's a better quality door. It makes sense that it's a, you know, work takes time.
Part of my problem as the master in this role is I have, you know, I don't wear a tool belt anymore. I'm not, you know, my guys buy the wood, my guys mill the wood, you know, and so I'm not as hands-on as I used to be. And I forget, you know, when you bring up that, you know, $600 just in materials, I'm like, yeah, and that doesn't even include the hardware. That doesn't include the, the other things that go into that.
Yeah.
And that even I get separated from the hands-on work.
Totally.
And sit there and go, I scoff at the $80 thing. And, you know, I'm like, you know, I tend to apologize for a $2,000 interior door, but then I'll think about all the work that's gone into it, the design and everything else. I'm like, it's actually a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And so.
Oh yeah. It's the same. It happens all the time.
And the elevated quality that you're going to get from a custom build, something that is tailor-made to fit with the design and consistent theme of your house, it's going to speak, you know, it speaks. I mean, we look at these things over here. We look at all the builds behind us is like, it shows. And it shows that there's an idea behind the house. It shows that there's a plan. It shows that there's...
And then when you copy historic precedent, like that French door there, on one side it's raised panel, on one side it's flat panel. Every little panel mold inside of it is different. The panels are different between top and bottom. There's actually hand pegging that goes into it. There's just all of this work that goes into it. Now, where did we come up with this idea? Oh, we saw it in the past. We went to a French place and saw those different things.
Right.
And that's what a French door looked like from the 1820s. Okay, and so we go back and we try to make it again, and it adds up. Yeah. Here's where you get into the education and you get into you miseducation. Okay, and so this guy says, I get where you're coming from, but molded doors are cheap, stable, and available in so many different styles to suit homeowners' choice that they are a go-to for internal use. In modern homes with seasonal forced air heating and cooling, a real timber door, which I think it means just a wood door, can be the worst choice, as the real wood is subject to shrinkage when it dries out, can suffer from warpage, which then makes the homeowner really unhappy that they've spent a fortune on wood doors and it won't open and close properly.
What's your response to that?
Well, I don't think, especially wood in a climate controlled environment like that, is not going to move that much. No. I mean, it's a natural organic, material. It's going to move outside a little bit, but MDF moves too.
But the reason why we don't do stave car doors in the interior is because you've got a conditioned space. You've got, I mean, most houses are between 68 and 72 degrees, right? Year round. Humidity will change, but not that much that they would move. And so here's miseducation going on, right? Here's this guy throwing out some stuff, and if this guy's a builder, right, he's throwing out a comment that just isn't true. And so, and so where Richard and I are talking about, a door and why you would do this, and why we'd recommend doing this, he's actually steering them towards it, saying, imagine you're the homeowner and your guy says, yeah, you don't want one of those doors. It's going to warp and twist and everything else. And you're just like, wait a minute. And so kind of frustrating.
So help me understand that, because y'all seem to be on the same wavelength of like, it doesn't do that. Doesn't it? I mean, because I've seen wood warp. I've seen, the space beneath the fridge.
Where have you seen wood warp? Not on the inside of a house.
Well, underneath the refrigerator where the ice falls and melts, and then
so
you've
got.
But I'm hearing that. I'm like, all right, rain hits the side of a house. Is the door not going to shift around? And maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate. No, not an interior door. But is he specifically talking about interior
doors? And he's saying,
interesting.
He's saying the go-to for internal use is because you want a door that is not going to move. Now, who knows what condition he's come under that he would have made a comment like that.
Maybe he had a nightmare experience
Right,
or something
maybe
from a bad meal or
yeah,
something.
maybe, right? And so
Yeah.
you're like, okay, well, he's never going to use a wood door again because he had a bad experience. But if our role on this podcast is to raise the quality of the passion for craft, this function, right, that this guy's complaining against, becomes one of the challenges for us, because not only do you have to build something that's well crafted, well made, that's beautiful, it needs to last, right? It needs to perform.
Yeah.
Cost and function have become this thing that we no longer build beautiful things. We no longer have beautiful things because they're too expensive, which is the original comment. They're too expensive, and no one wants to do that. And it's not true, but it's the I mean, that right there gets to the heart of our challenge and what we have to overcome.
Yeah.
It's just simply a wrong statement. I would say the pinnacle of an interior door is a custom built wood door with style and rail joinery. I would say that's like top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Anything lower than that is settling for less, and that it's okay if you have to settle for less. I mean, maybe the budget isn't there to get the best of the best, but as a passion for craft, I am reaching for that top of the mountain.
Yeah.
So it's not like I understand that not everyone is going to be able to afford that, but at the same time, that's not true, because if it's constructed by a craftsman who knows what they're doing, it's I mean, wood is going to move. There's no question about it, but MDF moves as well.
Yeah.
It's a material that you're basically making into like a fake wood.
Right.
And it's going to move with, metal.
Yeah.
Expands
Metal
and
moves.
contracts
Yeah, totally.
So that's not a good argument in my opinion. And it's just wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, to your point, right? Custom all the way. Okay. Let's say,
Money, no object.
yeah, money's no object. You go custom all the way. But let's say money is an object, and
Which
you
it
go
is to pretty much all of
Well,
us.
let's say you go on the lighter end of custom building, and let's just be generous. What would you all say is on the lighter end of custom pricings?
Well,
you said you could do it for $1,200, maybe.
Oh, you could probably do it for $800 or $900. Here's the deal.
But hold on, let me just get to the point. Because basically, we have 14 doors in y'all's house here, right? There's 14 doors in that house. Basically, is it not worth it to spend that amount of money, which is a fraction of the whole house? I know it's a lie. I know it can seem
what I'm going to say is that when you get in, you're off that top level and you're coming down. Let's say it's a $500,000 house.
Yeah.
You are making compromises and making decisions, in my mind, throughout that, on all that house.
Yeah.
The kind of roof that you can put on, the kind of stone you can put on the outside, if it's even stone. And interior doors may be a piece of that.
Yeah.
But probably at that level, interior doors, you're not going to be able to afford a custom door, or you wouldn't want to spend the money on a custom door because it's not bang for the buck.
Oh, yeah.
You'd rather put a good window in. You'd rather put a good roof on it. You'd rather put a good stone on the outside.
So fight for the exterior first, and after you've had it for 10 years.
You're gonna build a set of standards of things that you're gonna want to attain.
Cool.
And so it's all going to be this balancing of trying to make the best decisions that are going to bring the most long-term value. And it may not be in interior doors. I don't think interior doors are going to be on that top 5 list at that thing.
I think that's helpful. That's cool.
Yeah.
So the other thing I'd say about education is, going back to the Neiman Marcus thing, I think about a shirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you spend $500 on a shirt? Well, if you can buy a shirt at Target for, or Walmart for
$10.
$19, right? And then what's the next step up? Then you go to
Target,
Banana
Target,
Republic, Walmart, then Target,
and then maybe go to Costco, and you're spending $30, and then you go to
Banana Republic, J. Crew,
you're paying $80, and then you go to I don't know.
You're probably getting close to the Neiman Marcus level,
right? And so you keep going up. Now I'm buying shirts in the $50 to $150 level. I'd never spend $500 on a shirt. But maybe I just don't know. Maybe that's where my education, right? I don't understand the craftsmanship that's going into it. I don't understand the better materials. I don't understand the name brand appeal. I don't understand those things. And so I look at all this and I bring that up because, there are areas where I need to be educated, and I'm still not choose to buy a $500 shirt once I understand it.
Yeah.
But we want to give our client the opportunity to understand what's in that
Totally.
before they do that.
And that makes sense. Totally. From the journeyman and master level, like, that's the role, is to engage with the client who probably is sitting more like me, right? And probably just has no idea what that, maybe a little more than me. I'm an idiot. So anyway, but that's, I think that's a super helpful thing. So wrapping up, kind of final conclusions. What should a door cost? Final question for you guys.
High end, 2,500 and up. That's hardware, everything.
Okay.
All
in, higher end, 2,500 up.
Yeah. And then the low end is that 81. So I think that one's.
I mean, most of the time we're telling clients, if I'm budgeting a job for a client, I start at $600 for an interior door.
Okay.
So I mean, and we go up from there.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've found out from some of the high end designers we're working for, you can spend $2,500 on the hardware.
Oh, well.
I mean, it can be.
You can
get way up there just on the hardware.
Yeah. I mean, for me here, after what I've learned today, I feel like I've learned a lot today. I feel like this is super helpful. And after today, swearing off big box store doors in general, I just don't think it makes sense, right?
Our work is done.
Yeah.
I mean, it really just, it doesn't make sense to me why you would spend that money on that, where you can spend double, right? Yeah, $80 to $160. And I'm assuming that the antique door people, I can get a salvaged door for around that 160 number, which is that accurate?
Or
less. Okay.
$50.
Well, look, if that's my options, if I've got that and I've got a door plan, man, I'm taking that play every time. I just value the longevity of it. So for me, I'm swearing off the big box store. That's me out on the Lowe's, Home Depot door buy, even the 6-panel, whatever. It just makes, I don't see why it makes sense after what I've learned today to buy that door when I could buy a better made one, right? Is that not? I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
That's the way I'm looking at it. So, closing thoughts. Is there any final words? Feel like wraps up today?
I would say, like everything, it's all going to depend on your budget. Mm-hmm. So don't feel like, man, I'm going with these MDF doors, so man, I don't have a passion for craft. Like, no, that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is that just do the best you can with what budget you have based off what we've shared with you today. Mm-hmm. If you can double it up, for you, it sounds like you can spend twice as much versus that big box door. There you go. That's
or it's
the
just
level
more
that
worth
you're
it,
at.
right?
Yeah.
In my mind, the calculation there is not just I want to spend double. In my mind, the calculation is it's going to break down after 10 years anyway. Why not buy a 20-year door for double the price?
Or a 100-year door for double the price.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the change would be like that.
Right. Anyway.
Yeah, so just consider what we said and make the best decision based off that. But that's about what doors cost.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
Well, I'm just thinking about, just these resources we're hoping to provide for people, and I'm thinking about Patreon. And one of the things that we'll be providing in that middle section, the journeyman section, is the library, and cutting away how to build doors, styles of doors, history of doors, and things like that. There will be some good information coming up over the next year that should be very helpful.
Awesome. Well, once again, thanks for listening in, and hope you have a passion for craft.